Hi, everyone. Welcome
What's
back.
up,
Play Like a Day here. Money.
Sarah?
Yes, we're back. We're back with more non-binary sports things,
Whoop, whoop.
and sports things and,
Mhm.
just by themselves and gender things and all the things that are incorporated. I'm excited for this episode because we're going to reminisce a little bit about sports icons that we grew up loving and sports moments that we grew up in. And I think those are the moments for me that like make sports like really like a special place in my heart when you can look up to people, no matter who they are, and be like, that's like what I want to be. That's who I want to be, what I want to be doing, and all the things that come along with it, and the inspiration of people who are already doing what you want to do. It's a big deal.
Heck yeah, it's a big deal.
We love it.
hmm
We love it. Let's see. Where do we want to start here? I mean, we could rattle
Well,
off.
we could start anywhere.
We could really
Um,
start anywhere.
but
Um,
I think what's really cool about sports. So we were just before we started recording, we were talking about like, okay, so what professional athletes do we talk about?
yeah,
And we were saying like, okay, well, it's soccer and basketball, but like that's the thing, and like we're not even that old, right? Like we're like
no,
young still.
yeah,
And the only professional sports that were televised when we were kids growing up was soccer and basketball.
yeah.
And so like those were the only sports figures only. I mean, they're amazing. Like
But we didn't
these
have
like,
social media like we
but
do
we didn't
now.
have exactly. And so like
Yeah,
the reach was like different.
yeah.
So but
Oh,
like the
that's so
first,
interesting. The social media
yeah,
part, yeah, that has made it so much more possible, and the
mhm,
streaming parts of it, Reddit.
Reddit.
Reddit. All the places you can stream sports that we didn't get to
Mhm.
watch because the internet was not the way it is now. And how like small amount of time all of this has happened, which always blows my mind when I think about it. Like I didn't even have a cell phone until I was 18.
Dang.
Right? Like that's and it all it was a flip phone that could like barely text, you know?
Sure.
Like and that's like by the time I was like in college I had a smartphone. So like a few years went by and it was like already a
Isn't that
wild
wild?
difference. Yeah.
Dude, I think about when I played college softball, we had to buy our own gloves. And people have probably heard that and were like, oh, you had to buy your own gloves. Like now, D1 softball programs get like
Yeah.
gloves, bats, everything. Like we had to get our own gloves. And then like 2 years later,
No.
everyone started to like be provided with a glove. And I'm like, that's crazy.
First of
But
all,
yeah.
for any of the haters out there, everything to do with sports is expensive.
Yes.
Everything.
You don't even want to know how much my glove costs.
Yeah, it's not like when we say we had to buy things for women's sports just to participate, like it was not cheap. It was not cool.
Heck
It was not cool.
no.
It was not cool. I remember there were hockey teams at my high school, which was interesting because it's Texas, but still hockey teams, and they had to buy all their equipment. And I was like, wow,
Oh my God.
that's commitment. You know what I mean? That's commitment.
You know, you got to do what you got to do. Seriously. I mean, I think
Gotta do it.
women in sports, women non-binary people playing on like a women's team in
Yeah.
sports have to be creative sometimes,
Yeah.
because like if you want to play that bad, unfortunately, you got to make it happen for yourself. At least like that was the narrative, before
Yeah.
things started,
I had
progressing.
I had a job so I could pay for tournament fees to go play AAU
Dang.
basketball. Like it was just like you had to do what you had to do, if that wasn't like what was available to you. And
Yeah.
buy new pairs of basketball shoes because you wear them out in like 3 months if you're playing
Yeah,
for
you
7 hours a day every day.
sure do.
Yeah.
Sure do.
All the things, and oh man, yeah, it's so wild. Like basketball, WNBA came around in 1997.
hmm
Professional soccer, not in like an NWSL, National Women's Soccer League,
No.
but the
But the
like
national
literal
team,
World Cup national team, Olympics, like
like thank
Olympics. That was
Olympics,
another place.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
But
was really exciting. Was when the Olympics came around, summer and winter,
yes.
and being able
hmm
to see women and probably non-binary athletes at that
hmm
point to compete
Definitely.
was a big highlight. I
Oh
watched
yeah.
tennis too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, now we're finding other.
Yeah.
Now we're finding other ones. Tennis was a
We
big
are.
one that I watched actually. My parents loved it. I love playing it. I played in high school a little bit.
Mhm.
I love tennis.
Tennis.
And Monica Seles, I was like, "Another Monica?" Which was always really fun. Um, Loved Monica Seles.
Yeah.
Um, was a great inspiration, and then, of course, there's so many tennis icons on the women's side.
Oh, endless, endless.
Endless, endless. You were saying Billie Jean King before we
Billie
started?
Jean King, mhm. I think there are more well, in my brain, there are more women tennis icons than there are men icons, but maybe I
Yeah,
paid attention to them more, but
yeah.
that's in my brain, that is very true.
I love that that's what it's in your
Yeah.
brain. I love that. I love
Yes.
that. Of course, like Serena, Venus Williams,
Duh.
oh, there's so many.
Even, Maria Sharapova, like,
Yeah,
I know that she didn't necessarily I actually don't know where she is now, but when she came on
yeah,
the scene when she was, like, 16, and I was
yeah,
like, "Dang, this girl's a baller," you know?
yeah, yeah. Badass, badass.
Mhm.
I love that.
Crazy.
And who did I wanna be when I was a little sports player?
Mm, I
Like,
know who I wanted to
immediately,
be.
immediately Mia Hamm, like, immediately.
Duh!
Loved
Wait,
Mia Hamm, was in love with Mia Hamm.
all of the above.
All of the
Okay, so I was, like, so obsessed with Mia Hamm. I got this and, like, soccer in general. I had
Yeah.
this UNC soccer shirt.
Yes.
And I literally, I kid you not, I wore it every single day. Every day. My mom would wash it, God bless her. My mom would wash it every night so
Oh,
I could wear it
amazing.
every day to school, and I wore it
What
so
a good
much.
mom.
I know, she really was like,
That's
"Yes,
amazing.
wear that shirt every day."
Yeah.
I wish I still had it, but like, holes developed because I
Oh, of
wore it
course.
so much.
Of course. Yeah. Oh my gosh, the shirts I would wear, the eat, sleep, breathe, play basketball or
Yeah,
soccer. I think I had soccer ones too, like all
I'm
the
sure.
like, play like a girl, in the
Mhm,
positive light kind of things, like play like a
mhm,
they. That's if you don't
mhm.
know, that's that's where this came from if you didn't
Sure
know.
did.
Sure did. But yeah, I think my dad was a Tar Heel, so we had all the Tar Heel
Oh,
stuff
no way.
too. Yeah, so I think I'm pretty sure I had a like Tar Heel soccer and
Oh, you
basketball shirts for
definitely did.
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. It was like, it was rooting for the Tar Heels and not rooting for Duke. That was like the
Yes.
obviously.
Duh.
Obviously. And for me, soccer, Mia Hamm for sure was like the ultimate. Like
Mhm.
Brandy Chastain for sure too. I
Yeah.
mean, there were so
Julie
many.
Foudy,
Yes, yes, yes.
Michelle, I forget her last name, but she was a defender with, like, really curly hair, like,
Yeah,
oh my god, those women.
I'm so bad
Brianna
with names.
Scurry, who is the, goalie.
Yes, I was trying to think of the goalie's name because I played goalie in soccer, so I was
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, I'm so bad with names. This is gonna be hard, but
Mhm. Yeah.
try my best."
And if I remember correctly, I think at the time she was the only Black player on the team.
I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you're right. Yeah, trailblazers.
Seriously.
Seriously, like, yeah, we
Mhm.
had I feel so lucky to have role models like them for
Mhm.
sure. And then on the basketball side, like I was pumped. 1997. Let me set the stage. 11-year-old Monica. Been playing basketball since I was like 8, 3 years in.
Yep.
Been watching the NBA. Love the NBA. It was good. Went to some college games. Love some college games. But then the inaugural WNBA season, 1997, lost my mind in the best
Oh my
way.
god.
Lost my mind, was living in Dallas, Texas. There was a team in Houston called the Houston Comets. All the teams,
Mhm.
most teams are different now. Than when the league started.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone know if people, I'm sure some people know that, but most teams are like very different. There wasn't a Dallas Wings when I lived in
Mm-mm.
Dallas. There was Houston Comets, so we would like drive down to those games, which are still, I'm happy. Like I always want accessible prices, but it's like kind of ridiculous.
Sure.
Um, it's kind of ridiculous. But we were able to go down to the game and like, dude, the Comets were like dominating for the first few seasons. Like them
Mhm.
and the Los Angeles Sparks.
And the Sparks, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm Sparks fan for life. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I spent all summers from middle school, high school, and college in LA. WNBA seasons start in May and go through the
Mhm.
summer. So I was able to go to a lot of games at the Staples Center to watch the Sparks, which is like was amazing. And watch their, I think it was their 2002 championship. I was 16,
Sounds right.
2002 or 2003. I was
Mhm.
there at that game at Staples Center. And I remember I had like my tooth was hurting and I needed to get a root canal. So I was like taking pain meds and like vomited in the trash can in front of Staples Center.
And you're like, I must
I
go.
gotta go to this game. And I did. And I watched it by myself because there was no one else that wanted to go.
You know
So,
what? What women sports fans do to
dude,
be there?
I was like,
Unmatched. Unmatched.
unmatched. I look like a little chipmunk. And I was like, I'm going to this game. And they won it all. And yeah, it was amazing. Lisa Leslie, Jamila Wideman.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
there was another player I liked really well, and I'm forgetting their name. I think like last name, I think Dixon or something. But so many great players. And I got to go watch, in Houston, Cheryl Swoops, Cynthia
Oh my
Cooper,
God.
Tina Thompson, who fun fact is a scout for the Portland Trailblazers right now, which is like
Oh, I didn't know
amazing.
that.
Super amazing.
Iconic.
Iconic for sure. Um, yeah, the WNBA just like changed my life for sure. Like
I remember going
hands down.
to uh I think my dad signed us up for Becky Hammond had this like basketball camp, and
Yes.
Becky Hammond played for the New York Liberty
Yes.
way back when.
Rebecca
And we used to
Lobo,
go,
Becky Hammond.
yes,
Yes.
and we used to go to her camp, and we got to meet her, and that was like a really cool moment. And then they used to play, for all you people in New York or who know what Radio City Music Hall looks like. New York Liberty used to play at Radio City Music Hall, not Madison
What?
Square Garden. So they used to set up a basketball court on the stage. I mean, it's a huge stage, it's like giant, but they
That's the
used to
most
set up a
wild thing
basketball
I've ever
court
heard.
right on the stage, and then there were still like courtside seats, but
Yeah.
you sat in like in like the audience. It
Oh
was
my
like,
God. That's so cool and weird,
isn't it?
but cool.
And weird but
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow. It's for them to say we played in rain.
I know. I'm like,
What? That's wild. They had a Portland team here, Portland Fire, at
yes,
that point, and I'm really hoping that they bring in. I think Portland is like the ideal spot for a WNBA team. Come on, expansion,
let's
WNBA team,
go.
let's go. I'm so ready. I'm so ready. Oh man, but yeah, so many great basketball players and to look up to. It was just a blast. It was a
Yeah,
blast. Still a
and
blast.
coaches too.
Yes.
Like
Oh
I
my
mentioned
God. Yeah.
Pat Summit earlier.
Nancy Lieberman Klein.
Like RIP, what like
Yeah.
iconic women who really like stepped or showed, I think, like little girls that they could not only be athletes, but like coach
Yeah.
athletes. Like that is so cool.
And then
And I
even breaking
can't,
the barrier into men's basketball and
and
men's
right.
sports.
Yes. Speaking of Becky Hammond, coaches professional like NBA basketball.
Yeah.
So she started with
With the
the
Spurs.
Spurs. Yeah. So that's like super dope, you know?
So, and Nancy Lieberman Klein did coach some men's basketball, and I can't recall where right now, but icon. Like I used to
Mm-hmm.
go to her basketball camp in Dallas, and then I was a
Cool.
like coach at her basketball camp when I was in college, and it was so cool to meet her because just total badass. Total
And
badass. Like dream
those
come true.
figures, yeah, and those like at those athletes, those coaches, those people who like
Yeah.
we grew up watching. I mean, could you imagine like not being able to see that stuff, you know? And
No.
I think like women's sport, like women would always try and play sports, but I think
Yeah.
there's a different dynamic when you're able to like see representation out there, and like you can
Yeah.
dream bigger and, reach further. And I think that is
Yeah.
like so important.
Especially professionally. I think like, what people were able to see before, but they'd have to go see it, not see it
Hmm.
televised was college sports, which is amazing. And like such a special place to be able to see women's sports in college before there were like professional leagues or they were even
Oh
televising it in
yeah.
anything, which is yeah, so necessary. So shout out. Shout out to all the college athletes that
Oh,
really
for
paved the way
sure. For
and
sure.
the people who were able to like join these professional teams and be there and like make things so possible for little folks like us.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and like I think you just mentioned college, but in I played softball growing up, and I played softball in
Yeah.
college, and um iconic softball coaches.
Yes.
Patty Gasso, who's at Oklahoma, and Carol
Yeah.
Hutchins, who's at Michigan, who it's her last season. She announced retirement at the beginning of this year. But I mean, like those people are just,
Yeah.
I mean,
No words.
no words. Yeah, like,
We used to go
how
to softball tournaments in Texas and they were huge. I have
oh
a
my god, Texas?
softball,
Yeah,
yeah, wild. I have a softball that's signed by the entire like national women's team somewhere.
that's
Like,
really cool.
yeah, my sister was really into it and I played up until I was probably like 14, 13 or
Mhm.
14 before I chose like to play basketball and soccer over softball. And like, yeah, I was a catcher. And in Texas, putting all that gear on was like, I just like couldn't do it. I couldn't do it
It's
anymore.
like heat stroke waiting to
Yeah,
happen.
heat stroke. I was like, I think I'm gonna choose an indoor sport. It just happens to be my favorite, but but it's a little too hot out here. But softball was always so fun and a
Oh,
really
yeah.
special sport for sure.
And I think you talked about earlier too, like, we had professional soccer, professional basketball, but then
Yeah.
Olympic sports.
Yes.
And when they came up, like, watching the
Gymnastics? Are you kidding me?
gymnastics, softball was in the
Softball,
Olympics.
huge in the
It wasn't a
Olympics.
professional, well, that's not true. They actually started, it is kind of true. Softball had a professional league when I was probably like 10 or 11,
I think that's what
and
we went to. I wanna
I'm
say, I was like,
sure.
I think it was professional.
So
Maybe
they
like, yeah.
And I think they had that for, like, maybe 2 seasons, and then it kind of
Yeah.
folded, right? Because like, no one at that point was paying to, go see professional women's softball, which is wild because softball is actually a
Yeah.
really fun sport to watch, but I'm
So
biased.
fun.
Anyway,
No, it's
um,
definitely fun.
yeah, but, like, when the Olympic team rolled around, I think Jenny Finch was really the first, like,
Yeah.
marketable softball player,
Yeah.
and so she was, like, all over the place, like, in commercials and when Olympic season was coming up, but, like, that was cool to watch too, just the
So cool.
development of, like, different sports, women's
Yes.
sports, you know?
Swimming, diving,
Swimming. Yes.
so good.
So
Even
good.
like triathletes, I used to run bike and swim triathlons.
So
Like,
cool.
yeah, just and then winter sports, and then we're looking at snowboarding and cross country skiing and downhill and like, and figure skating, huge,
Figure skating, yeah.
huge. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh. And yeah, it was just like I'd watch all of it, any and all of it. I didn't care. I
Mhm.
just wanted to watch anything that was like seeing more women and non-binary people that I could see for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It's fun stuff.
it's
I'm
so
glad that
good.
we were able to grow up with, like,
Yeah.
that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that
What a
moment at
privilege.
Staples Center was like core memory for me, for sure.
That's so cool.
Core memory. And I have other core memories with basketball that are really great and involve like going to men's sporting events, but
Mhm.
it's like it's that much more special, you know?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I
That
remember
much more
going
special.
to, I think I might have been, like, 8,
Yeah.
and the, women's national team at the time, I think it was Mia Hamm's, like, last year. But anyway, they played a exhibition game at Giant Stadium,
Oh,
and
nice.
the first, I mean, Giant Stadium is huge, right? It's a football
Yeah.
stadium, but only, like, the bottom rows were, like, filled with, like, little kids and,
Oh,
parents and everything, and
yeah.
it was so cute, but I remember, um, the players came over to, like, the stands after the game, and they were just so, I think they were probably really appreciative of, like, people actually coming to watch them, but
Yeah.
we kids felt, at least I did, felt so special when they came up,
Yeah.
and I have a hat signed by Brianna Scurry, who was
Yep.
the goalie at the time. I think Abby Wambach, was on the team at that point, but,
So cool. Core
that was
memories.
definitely a core memory for me, yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah.
I mean, I'm still having core memories with women's sports. I went to the second game in the WNBA finals this
Mhm.
year, the Storm versus the Aces, at Clean Pledge Arena in Seattle, and it was just like an amazing game, you know? Like, I can't even all
Yes.
the players, and it's Sue Bird last season, so Sue Bird, Breanna Stewart, Jewel Lloyd,
Mhm.
Kelsey Plum, um, Aja Wilson, like, it's just
Mhm.
the list goes on, and it was
Mhm.
just like, I mean, core memory for sure, and I went by myself again. I went by myself. I was like, "I'm driving up here," and it was a last minute decision. I'm sure I could have gotten people to go with me, but it
Sure.
really was like a last minute
You're like,
decision.
"I'm going."
I'm going. I'm just buying a ticket and I'm going. That arena is like tops amazing. It's like brand new and so
That's
cool.
cool.
So cool. But yeah, still creating those core memories. Yeah. It's and then right right now March Madness is happening, and it's just
Mhm.
like, oh man, it's just chef's kiss.
And that's really cool too, because like you see how much the women's game has developed. And I think it's because I don't think the talent is any better. I think the resources are more
Oh yeah,
available,
for sure. And
right?
they're
Because
like calling it out, you know?
yes. Hmm.
Like Sedona was
Like,
like, yo, a couple years
yeah,
ago was like, this is not
yeah,
it.
not
Yeah.
cool.
No.
But I think I read this morning that Caitlin Clark, who plays for Iowa, she's like the standout player
Badass.
on
Yeah.
Iowa. She has more like double doubles. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this, but she has more like double doubles of any college player ever to exist, like even on the men's
Wow.
side. And
That
I'm
would be
just like,
amazing.
that is
Next level.
like women are just as good, if not better, and
Eh,
just as exciting to watch
just as
if
exciting.
they have, the resources available to them that men have had forever.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
need a chance to like develop their game and be healthy and like
Yes.
all of that stuff. And like this is proof. Like how fun is
Yes.
it to watch? It's like so competitive.
So competitive. We were watching the other day, and Tom, my partner, was like, this is so fast paced. Like, this is going so fast. And like, he wasn't even
Yes.
comparing it to like men's because, he doesn't really know because
Right.
he just like watches sports and is
Yeah.
kind of a new basketball fan. But he's like, they're going so fast.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, it's like really competitive when you get to this point. I think it's Sweet 16 um, was what we were watching. And yeah, man, these teams are badasses and all the
They
players on
really
them. And
are.
it's like, you know what makes me like, that makes me happy. And then I get sad that I know there's not enough WNBA spots in the draft to draft all these amazing players,
I
which
know.
is a bummer. But we can't end
Yes.
this episode on a bummer note
No, no, we
because
can't.
there's so
It's
many great things happening.
so many great things. We
Oh,
love it. We love to see the game progress. We love to
we
see
love it.
women and non-binary folks be successful in the games that they like
Yes.
to play. I mean, there's nothing better to me than being
Yep.
able to watch someone do that they're really good at and they're really
So
talented
good.
at. Like
Oh,
that's I don't care what I'm watching, but like the elite players, like it's just
it's
so
like
fun to
art.
watch.
It's
Yeah.
art. It's
Yes.
art. Like even, even men's like watching Steph Curry and like it's just it's wild. And now we've got
Hmm.
the NWSL that's like kicking ass. Like people
Oh
are
my
going,
God.
they're filling stadiums,
Sold out. Like
sold
season
out.
tickets are sold out. I'm
It's
like, go
amazing.
off.
The
Like,
San Diego
yes.
Wave is like
Hmm.
even in Angel City FC, LA loves their soccer. It
Yeah.
turns out I lived in LA for
Yeah.
a long time and now like LA they have two men's team, kind of two women's teams with the with San Diego. But and these teams are like selling out. It's amazing.
Well,
Um
Gotham, like I
oh
think
yeah.
New 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 York, New Jersey really like
Yeah.
love their soccer too. Red Bulls, like they're always that's the men's team.
Yeah.
They're always sold out, but Gotham, like last year and this year, like so many people go and it's like so fun to watch.
So fun. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh. Yes. I love it. I'm so glad we did this.
Me too.
And everyone who is listening or watching, please drop in the comments if you're on YouTube or tell us on Instagram who your favorite. We'll be posting a sneak peek on Instagram. So tell us who your favorite athletes have been growing up, women athletes, non-binary athletes, like or right now, anytime. We want to know. We want to know
Heck
all the
yeah.
folks. Anyone like we mentioned or didn't mention, let us know.
Please.
Because we left people out. There's no way.
We definitely left people out. There's no way that was an exhaustive list.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yes, and as always, we'll be back with another episode next week. Thanks for listening or watching if you're on YouTube. And subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're
Yeah,
listening to this, or Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe and leave a review. It helps a lot.
definitely.
We're building this up and we definitely want more folks to be in the conversation. So yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.